Okay, let's get started. Congratulations on completing sessions 1 and 2 of the boot camp, and we're going to get through the next session tonight, and we have one more session after this, and hopefully by then you'll have the completed business plan and you'll have the strategies that you'll need to get your business growing and become profitable. That's the whole intent. So I want to welcome you again, taking time out of your busy schedule to join us for this evening. And we're going to get things going in just a few minutes here, and just giving people time to get settled online. But I wanted to just say that for those of you who are having difficulties completing the first 2 sessions, please feel free to contact me, and we can do a one-on-one and hopefully get some questions answered or get things settled for you so that you can move on with your business plan. So again, welcome, and congratulations on making the decision to grow your business and become profitable. We're going to get started. I'm going to share my screen so that we can get going with our presentation. There we go, and I'm going to just move this. Okay, let's get started. Again, so Business Success Planning Bootcamp. Special training for women entrepreneurs. Okay, here we go. Hope you've downloaded your template, your workshop book. You should have received that in your email, and you can follow along with the recording and complete the workbook as we go along. I like doing the workbooks like this so that you'll have an opportunity to fill things in, and it sort of helps the learning process when you're able to write and also to look at the screen and follow the presentation. Just a reminder, these are our sessions. We've already done how to plan, start your business plan, going into how to think like a CEO. Session 2 was all about target marketing and product development. And this was by far one of the most important parts of your business plan, knowing who to market to and also knowing which products to market. Tonight, we're going to talk about cash flow or sales forecasting, how to create that plan as part of your business plan. And then the last session will be sales and marketing, how to put together that plan. So once you know who you're marketing to and what you're marketing and how much money you want to make, then you know how to reach out and find those customers or clients to help you be successful. A little bit about me, just to recap who I am. I am Cheryl Garrison, founder and CEO of 50-something Lifestyle. This is a resource for women over 50 who want to have their own business or who want to just create a lifestyle that will lead them into their 50s to be successful in every way. Once you hit that magical 50, sometimes our society believes that we're on a downhill, but we believe at 50-something Lifestyle that we're on an upward mobility, and we're on our way to tremendous success in every areas of our life. I am a coach, I'm a speaker, and I'm author, and I'm a creator of the Business Intensive, which is a one-on-one 8-week mentoring and coaching program for women who are starting businesses, and also the Reinvent Yourself program, which is for women who want to just really get in touch with where they're going in their lives and just to create a total different lifestyle on every level in their life. So I want to make life better for women over 50, financially, personally, and spiritually. So I'm glad you joined me. I bring to this platform 30 plus years as an entrepreneur, successfully running businesses from home and raising my 3 adult children now, and being able to not punch a clock since 1984. So I'm really excited to share what I've learned over the years with you and help you become successful. This is just a recap of our session 2, product description and the target marketing parts of your business plan. When you think of your product, you want to first think of who are you marketing to? How does that product bring value to them? How does it solve a problem for the people you are trying to reach? And then in your target marketing, coming up with a true customer profile, so that when you put your marketing out there, you're putting it out there and relating to the right people for your product. So if you haven't looked at the recording from session 2, do so and complete the workbook and get that part of your business plan completed, because you will not understand how important that is until you have it. And it's great for me when I'm doing my marketing. I know exactly all the time who I'm speaking to, and I keep that consistent voice. So people know when they find something with my name on it, what it's going to be about. And you want that to be the same, whether you have a tangible product or whether you're doing coaching or consulting, and it's more of an intangible thing, more knowledge and information. So let's get going with cash flow planning, or what I call sales forecasting. Never assume, never guess, do research. I love this quote because it really helps us in terms of getting ready to know how we're going to relate to our business in terms of what we want to make, how we're going to make it, and when we're going to make it. And the thing is that you never assume that it's just going to happen, because assumptions don't get you anywhere. You never guess, because guesswork is just that. But if you do research and you truly plan, you will get where you want to go in your business, especially when it comes to the money part of your business. These are our topics for tonight. What is cash flow or sales forecasting? Why is it important to plan your cash flow? That's really going to be an interesting topic, because it is very important to not just be functioning in the dark. We're going to talk about cash flow projecting, because projection is a big part of building your business. Pricing, how do you price your products or your services? And then we're going to talk about the business plan part 3 and your strategy plan for growth in terms of cash flow and sales forecasting. So let's get going and start with the definition of sales forecasting. And whenever I say sales forecasting, it's going to be interchanged between cash flow and sales forecasting. Sales forecasting is the process of determining what your future sales will be. It will be the key part of your business planning. It also helps you to identify and track startup expenses and forecasted ongoing expenses for the first year or so of your business and beyond. Now, you may wonder, what does expenses have to do with this? Well, you start forecasting by knowing what your expenses are, and we'll get into that a little later. But it really helps you to know what those expenses are, so that you are operating in a positive stance in terms of your finances. Most people start going out there putting products out, pricing products, and haven't taken into account the cost of manufacturing them, what it takes to bring that product to market, and then they find themselves losing money consistently. So we're going to talk about how to price your products, how to track your expenses, and then how to make yourself profitable by forecasting your sales. So let's get going. Why is sales forecasting important? I looked through a lot of things and I thought about a lot of things as I came up with these little bullets. It's important because it gives you a roadmap or planning tool for business activity. If you don't have business activity, you have no sales, you have no business. So a forecasting plan gives you that roadmap or that planning document that will bring about business activity. It helps you predict your revenue and your profit. So you'll know what your sales are, and then you'll know how much money you're going to make based on those sales. It helps you create promotions that directly relate to your sales goals. If you don't know where you're going in sales, it's hard to know how to put marketing and sales programs out there. And we'll talk a lot about that on the next session. It increases your ability to identify products or services your customers are buying. You get to know from your competitors and just from looking at the market what people are buying. And then once you know that, and we know a little bit about that from session 2, that we can forecast based on the knowledge that we know people are going to buy this product and how often they're going to buy it. And finally, it helps you compare your product or service with your competitors. How are your competitors pricing their products? How are they putting them out in the market? Are they profitable? You can tell that by just being on their site. There are signs that tell you whether a business is making money, especially if they're online and you're on their Facebook and you don't see any activity for months and months or even a year. You know that business is either not in business anymore or they're failing. So we're going to talk about sales forecasting. I'm really excited about that. And let's get going with where we're going with this. Sales forecasting is really a lot about predicting. So when you hear me say projecting and predicting, it's really, we remember we said that, it's not about guesswork, but it is about predicting based on some assumptions and based on some research. These are the things you need to know when you are getting ready to do your forecasting, sales forecasting plan or your cash flow plan. You want to start with your expenses, and we'll talk about what those expenses are. You want to have your financial projections for your revenue. That means how much money you're going to make in your sales. So we're going to have that projection in front of us. You need to have a timeline for how long are you going to look and project out. You need to know your targeted market. And if you did your homework from session 2, you know that. You know who you are marketing to. And finally, you need to have a price, because you cannot project sales if you don't know what your price is, what your product is priced at. So we're going to talk about those 5 things tonight. We're going to start with expenses. There are 2 types of expenses, fixed expenses and variable expenses. Now, in a startup phase of your business, it's easier and also makes more sense to forecast your expenses first, because at that point you are starting up, you know exactly what it takes to start your business. And this will have a direct relation with the amount of sales you need to make in order to have a viable business. You'll need to know that right offhand. How much do I need to make, especially to cover those startup expenses? So before you can forecast how much you plan to make on a product or service, you need to know the cost of making it. And your fixed and variable costs are the things that will let you know this. So I have a client who created a very unique product that required that it be manufactured. And prior to us forecasting what she could actually do in terms of sales, we needed to know some things. We needed to know how much it costs to manufacture that product, her wholesaling costs, what it cost her directly to get that product in her hand. And then we needed to know how to price it to take it to market. And so this knowing your expenses will help you, believe it or not, it will help you to come up with what you need to make. So those fixed expenses are those expenses that do not fluctuate. And if you look at the list here, these are rent, generally, or your mortgage, if you're working out of your home, your communication items, your phone, your internet, if you have a website, what it takes, anything that is based on coming from your computer or coming from your phone or your printer or your fax machine, all those things are pretty much fixed expenses. What it costs to set up your business, licensing, just registration fees, anything if you had to get an LLC, what that costs, that's a fixed cost. It's not going to change. And many times that's a one-time cost. If you have a vehicle that you use in your business, that's a fixed monthly expense as well. So I want you to think about the fixed expenses that you have in your business. If you are in a network marketing business and you are required to purchase a certain amount of products every month to stay eligible to receive commissions, that would become a fixed cost in your business. That may vary, can be a little variable, but for the most part, when I did network marketing, I believe the company was a minimum of $100 a month. So we knew that every month we were going to be expending $100 toward our products in order to remain eligible for commissions. So think about those fixed expenses. Those expenses that are variable are generally your marketing, because marketing programs are sort of based on trends and based on things that are going on around you, and they don't all cost the same. You may be looking to reach this market in this way here, so your marketing costs are going to vary. The cost of your product, the cost of goods, your manufacturing costs may stay constant, but shipping may change based on where that product is going, distribution based on how they have to send it to you, your packaging, if you're changing packaging or different sizes of orders. So those things can vary. Training, if you're going to attend educational training to help run your business, that's not something that's a constant. And also your supplies, they change, like your printer cartridges and paper and stuff like that. That's not generally a monthly expense. So I want you to take the time right now in your workbook and just write down right now, but also think about it later, those two types of expenses that you have in your business. And this list is going to be ongoing, but right now, we're within the next few days and between now and our next session, be sure to write down your expenses. And when you're doing that, don't shortchange them. Make sure that you are doing the highest amount, because you want to have a real good sense of how much it costs to run your business. If you're taking or requiring a salary out of your business, that would be a fixed expense. If you're hiring graphic artists and things like that, those would be variable expenses. but be sure to track as many of those as you can. So we have our expenses. We know what it costs to run our business. So now we're going to start the whole idea of projection, revenue or cash flow projection. It's calculating the amount of money that you will need to receive from your sales during a particular period of time in order to cover expenses, and make a profit. Whatever you project has to cover those expenses. That's why we start with expenses. And once your expenses are paid, anything beyond that becomes profit to you. So let's reiterate. It's the amount of money that you will need to make in sales during a certain period of time. Let's say generally within a 6-month period or a year, and we'll get into those things, to cover your expenses and make a profit. These are important factors that we want to consider when we project our sales, when we forecast. So like we said, it's going to be a projection for a given time period. It's not just I'm just throwing it out there. You want to have a time period. So I want to make this much money within this period of time. And you want to forecast several periods of time. Another factor that we're going to consider as we're forecasting is our price. And we're going to learn tonight about pricing, how to effectively price your product. And then a part of also projecting is knowing how many things I need to sell. If you're selling a physical product, how many of those products do I need to sell to cover my expenses and earn a profit? And that will directly relate to your revenue projections. As I said, revenue projections are about identifying those goals for yourself. So think about how you want to, how far out in the future you want to project. 6 months, a year, 3 years, 5 years, whatever it is, it's all personal. It doesn't have to be the same for everybody. If you say you want to project a year out, so that the whole idea is that in 1 year, you're predicting your goal in 1 year is to earn, let's say your goal is $50,000. So that would be your revenue projection for 1 year. They say in 5 years or 3 years, you want to be making $100,000. And in 5 years, you want to be making 7 figures. However that is, you could start with 20,000 and projecting to 50, and ultimately in 5 years, 100,000. Whatever that number is, write it down in the area where you want to do your projection. I typically keep people away from 6-month projections because the time comes so fast that most people don't reach their 6-month projection. So, but if that's what you want to do, go ahead and do that. Put that down. Now, you want to be sure that when you're predicting how much you want to make, that you did your homework in session 2 about the products that you're delivering and the people that you are reaching and the research that you did on your competitor. Because at that point, you can predict based on your target market. Like for me, I know my target market are women over 50 who are transitioning from the workplace or into an area in the workplace, but where they're ready to sort of get to a point of where they're wanting to be their own boss, have their own business. And so I know the size of the market that I generally talk to. And I also know how to reach that market. So when I predict out, I know that for a year, how much money that I can predict to make in that area. I'll use another example. When I had my interior design business, based on market trends and based on what other people in that business were earning in my area, I knew that having a six-figure annual income was very easy for me to hit once I figured out how to do it. And so within a year, I went from predicting 1 year $2,000 to predicting over $100,000, and I actually reached 200,000, over 200,000. So when you predict, you tend to run your business to where you will reach and hit that goal. So think about how far out you want to predict, and then how much you want to set your revenue goal for within that time period. Once you've done that, we're going to talk about pricing, because now you know you want to make $50,000 and you have this product that's, let's just think about, you're selling a widget that brings in $25 every time you sell it, okay? And we're going to see some examples a little later. Well, what you have to do is you have to price it and make sure that $25 is going to get you to that $50,000 in 1 year. And all you do is you do some multiplication or some division, and you know exactly how many of those things you need to sell. So the things that you want to do to get to your price are your revenue projections, what we just talked about. We're going to need to know your manufacturing costs, the cost to create your products. For me, my products are all information-based, so my costs are really based on my time. I'm not outputting any actual dollar amounts to manufacture, but I also want to take into consideration my time. So you give your time a value, an hourly value. You want to think about your expenses, because remember, you want to price it so that you cover your expenses first. It's also going to include the number of units you need to sell to break even. And you also want to look at your competitor's price. When you put that all together, it will equal your price for your product. I'll repeat that. Your pricing will include your revenue projections, your manufacturing or creation costs, your expenses, the number of units you need to sell to break even, and what your competitors are selling the same product or similar product for. That's going to equal your price. Let's talk a little bit, before we actually get into an example of pricing, talk a little bit about the difference between cost and value and how it's related to the pricing of your product. The cost of your product or service is the amount you spend to produce it. The cost of your product or service is the amount you spend to produce it, okay? The price is your financial reward for providing that product to your customers. This is the one I like, is the value is what your customers believe the product or service is worth. So when you think about those things related to how you're pricing your product, value comes into play, because if your clients or your customers don't think that there's any value to what you're selling, it really doesn't matter what your price is, because they're not going to buy it. So when you're pricing and you're thinking about your product, we talked about this in session 2. Remember that you want to bring to the market what people truly want. And then you want to let your clients know that it is absolutely worth what you're charging. A good example is a coaching program. There's coaching programs range from $99 to $10,000 and $20,000, $30,000 based on who's providing the coaching. And the value to the customers is a lot based on the success of the person who's providing the coaching, or if the person is looking at, okay, I want to do this to really introduce myself more into the market. And so with that lower end product or lower end training, I'm giving so much value that when I bring another product out that is higher price, my customers will buy because I gave them so much value at a lower cost. So think about value, and it's not always related to how much it costs. It's really about the content that you're getting, or if you have a great product that is like the best moisturizer on the market, the value to that client is softer skin. And so if their skin is softer or it's anti-aging, they're willing to pay more for that product than a product that doesn't provide the anti-aging component. So as you're pricing, think about, first of all, you have to know how much you produce for it. You have to know what your financial reward needed in order to meet those expenses and make a profit. But you also need to make sure that there's value in what you're producing. If there's no value there, then it doesn't really matter what it costs you to produce it or what you're pricing it at. It will not sell. So your value is going to be directly related to the benefits that your product provides. And so remember that as you are coming to your price. This is an example of value and costs and how you can think about pricing, especially if you're not in a network marketing business or a business where a franchise where things are already priced. So this is an example. The cost for a repairman to fix an air conditioner in the desert in 115, 116 degree heat at a customer's home may be $55 for his travel time. Materials costing $200 and his hour labor at $30. And those are the actual costs that the air conditioner company is looking at. It costs them $200 for the materials. They're paying him $30 an hour, and they're saying that it's a $55 charge because he may have taken an hour or so to get to you from where he's traveling from. But then you think of the value to the customer who may have no air conditioning in their house in 115, 116 degree desert heat can be far greater than the $285 it costs for that company to fix the air conditioner. So they normally will cost the value of, let's say they raise it to $585, probably much more. But just think, let's say they charge a total of $585 because the value of their service to that customer is very great. So think about your pricing and think about the value it brings, the cost that it costs you to do it, the value that it brings. And when think about a customer with no air conditioner, they're going to pay whatever it takes to get the air back on. And so this is why the pricing can be based on your value and starting with your costs to your value, okay? Take the time to think about your prices. If you've developed a new product or you're thinking of developing a product based on our session 2, then price your products based on this formula, your costs, what you want to be rewarded in terms of your paying for those expenses, and the value. So basically, once you get your price together, sales forecasting is it comes down to this simple formula. You multiply your units, time your price to calculate the sales that you need to make. Now, the way that you can also do it is, let's say you want to make $50,000 within a year. And you know now that that product is $25 based on what you came up with. And this is just very rudimentary, but it still will work. So your $50,000 divided by 25, which is what you'll get every time you sell it, means that you would have to sell 2,000 of that, whatever it was you were selling, to reach that $50,000 goal. So that lets you know your units. So when you're out there predicting your sales and coming up with your marketing plan, you'll know that you need to reach 2,000 people. Not you need to reach more than 2,000 people, you need to sell 2,000 units. And if that doesn't make sense for what you're marketing, change your price. Keeping in mind the value that your product provides. So once you projected all this, you may say, well, I think I can charge double for that. I think I can charge $50 for what I'm selling. Then you're down to, you cut that to 1,000 units rather than 2,000. And then you can further calculate that down to what you would need to sell every week, every month, in order to reach your goals. And that's really what sales forecasting is, really knowing what you're selling, what it costs, well, what you're selling, how much you want to make from it, what it costs, and how many. What you're selling, how much you want to make from it, how much it costs, and how many units. That is sales forecasting. It's very simple, but it's really about keeping track of your numbers. Here's another example. Let's say your real expenses in your business is $2,500 a month, and your sales goal is $48,000 or $4,000 a month. Now, it costs you $5.50 to manufacture your product. And just generally in projecting, most projections, you raise your price by 50% markup. Sometimes it's higher, but just starting at 50% as you're doing your projections. Based on this information, you would need to sell 227 of those items per month to cover your expenses. Barely, I mean, you're still not covering, you're $3 short. So you would probably bring it up to 228 units. If you want to make a profit, then you must sell at least 363 or 64 of those units a month at the $11 to make roughly $4,000 a month. So you know that if you sell 227.28, you'll cover your expenses. But covering expenses in business doesn't, I mean, if that's all you're going to do, then you might as well not do it, unless you have projected plans on each month making more and more money to where you are reaching your sales goal of $4,000 a month. I'm going to share with you a tool that will help you to project and make these, to actually project it using an Excel file that was developed for sales forecasting. So your sales forecast is the backbone of your business plan. Once you've done what we just talked about, you've made your sales goal or your revenue goal, you know in which time frame you're going to earn it. You know the price of your product. You know the cost of manufacturing that product. You know the value that you give, and now you know the units. Now you can go ahead and do your sales forecasting, and based on that information, you can write in narrative form that part of your business plan. So here we are with our business plan creation, part 3, which is all about sales forecasting. So you're going to title it in your business plan, Cash Flow and Sales Forecasting. This is a very quick roadmap I want you to think about. This is, let's say you have 3 different products. And this example shows a revenue goal for $15,350 for the year. This could be someone who has a full-time job and is doing this job as supplemental income, and that's a very good supplemental income. So they have one product that costs $500. So they need 20 clients for the year to make $10,000. And let's say they're selling a book, and at $15, this looks like a person who's coaching. 30 books would give them $450 for the year. And then if they do a conference and they have 100 attendees at $49 each, that would get them $4,900 for a total of $15,000 in revenue for 1 year. And if they want to double that, all we do is double the numbers here. They're selling 30 books in a year. You do the math on that. That's a very few books that you're selling on a monthly basis. So this is the value and the beauty of sales forecasting. When you do this, then you can write in your description. It would include your graph, which you're going to receive in a few minutes, the Excel file. You would actually put those numbers in your forecast. But then you would also explain how you got to that and talk about the value based on what we talked about. And this is individual for each one. I didn't share mine because those are my financial numbers. But when you do it, I'd like you to write your forecast. First do the Excel, write your forecast, share it with me if you like, and then I will look at it and just make sure that what you want are the numbers in your plan. You just want, when you look at your plan, you want to be able to pick up a part of it that tells for 1 year, 3 years, 5 years, what your financial goals are and how you're getting to them. The units, the price, and the time period, okay? So I want you to complete the Excel template that you'll be receiving when I send the recording. And I want you to then document the forecast for your business. This is an example of a forecast for, let's say, a business is selling three prices, product A, B, and C. Product A is $997, product B is $697, and product C is $27. All you do is plug that number in, and then down in the body of the Excel for each month, you will say how much total, how many of those things you're going to sell, the units sold. You put it in, look at March, 5 units, and then it gives you the projection for product A. So this person is going to sell 5 units every month or spread out over the year. And you can do the same thing if you look at product be they're selling one product, and then that's their revenue. So go in when you get this Excel sheet, go in and putting your numbers, because you should at this point now have prices for at least do 3 products. Or you can do 1. If you're selling 1 product, that's fine. Then you can go ahead and predict. And if you look here, based on the numbers that were in this template, the total revenue for the year would be predicted at $23,000. Okay? So I want you to take the Excel file, complete it, and then narratively write out what your goals are and put some tables in your business plan. And one thing we're going to do on the last class is actually just really review all the plans. Now, with everything that we've been doing, you have your business plan, but let's think a little bit about the strategy that goes along, because without the action, then nothing gets done, right? So let's talk about a pricing strategy. So you want to determine your pricing strategy. We talked about cost-based, which is based on just your manufacturing costs, what it costs you to put the product together, or value-based, if you're looking at your product based on its worth to the customer. You can determine the strategy that you want to use when you go through that whole pricing part of the business plan or your business strategy. If you know that your product has very high value, then you want to price based on value. So determine your pricing structure. And then you want to consider, once you projected your sales as you're going along, there's nothing wrong with adjusting your prices, either raising them or lowering them based on what's going on in the market as you move forward. So you may say today your price is $50 for your product. And then 3 months down the line, you find that your competitors are now charging $65. And if that value is there, or if the quality is in your product, then you can raise your price to $65. It's going to give you more profit. But when you see your perceived profits versus sales loss, you may think you'll make more money, but you may actually lose money because the quality or the value is not there to sustain raising prices. So when you're raising or lowering prices, if your price is too low, that can also sort of trigger to people that there's not a lot of value in it. There's not a lot of quality to it. So think of that as you're going through. If you're seeing that your sales are not doing what you think they should be doing, adjust your prices based on what your competitors are doing, based on the quality or the quantity that you want to add to what you're selling, and then based on your perceived profits. Make sure that you're looking forward to profits and not sales loss. So those are 2 strategies that you want to think about as you are getting into pricing your products and forecasting your sales. Is it going to be cost-based or value-based? And if you're going to, as you're going through that time period, raise and lower your prices based on these 3 factors. You've completed session 3 of the boot camp, and check your inbox for the Excel spreadsheet. It's a template that you can complete, and for the recording, because I think it's good for you to go back and look at what's been done, and just get ready for this 3rd part of your business plan being done, and looking forward to next week where we're getting into the guts and bolts of sales and marketing. So I'm going to stop sharing my screen right now, and I'm going to say good night, and those of you, many of you are getting the recording, which is fine because we're in all different time zones and people are working during this time. I'm just excited that you're getting the information that's being provided and that you're doing some things. Let me hear from you if you're receiving the recordings. Just jot me an email and let me know how it's going, and or set up a schedule call and we can talk about what's going on with your program. So have a good evening and look forward to getting my email probably tomorrow. And have a good night. Talk to you later. Bye-bye.